There is a moment that happens in millions of homes every single evening. So familiar, so ordinary, that most people never think twice about it. The dinner plates are cleared, the television comes on, and somewhere between settling into the couch and heading to bed, a drink is poured. Maybe it's a second glass of something that's become a nightly habit. Maybe it's a warm mug that signals the end of the day. Maybe it's something cold from the refrigerator that simply feels refreshing. It is a ritual of comfort. And for most people over 60, it is also, without any awareness at all, one of the most consistent sources of harm their kidneys experience all week. Well, I'm Dr. Naira Stein, your senior health and wellness consultant. And if you're over 60 and you've ever wondered whether the way you wind down in the evening might be affecting your health in ways you can't yet feel, you are in exactly the right place. Stay with us. We are here to help you understand your body with the honesty, warmth, and clarity that you have always deserved from the people responsible for your care. Tonight, we are going to talk about something that most doctors never find time to address in a standard appointment. Not because it isn't important, it is profoundly important, but because the connection between your evening drinks and your kidney health is one of those slow, invisible processes that doesn't announce itself until the damage has already been building for years. By the time a blood test finally catches it, the kidneys have often been struggling quietly through thousands of nights, just like the ones you thought were perfectly fine. So let's change that. Let's talk about what is actually happening inside your kidneys while you sleep, which drinks are working against that process, and what you can do, gently, practically, without overhauling your entire life, to give those remarkable organs the nighttime environment they need to keep protecting you for the years ahead. First, I want to take a moment to explain something that most people don't fully appreciate about what the kidneys do while you're asleep. We tend to think of sleep as a time when the body slows down, when the organs get a rest along with the rest of us. And for some systems, that's partially true. But for the kidneys, nighttime is not rest period. It is, in many ways, the most important working hours of the day. While you sleep, your body enters its deepest repair cycle. Cellular maintenance accelerates. The immune system does some of its most focused work, and the kidneys shift into a different but equally demanding mode of operation. They concentrate your urine, managing water balance with extraordinary precision so that you don't become dehydrated overnight. They regulate the levels of potassium, sodium, and acid in your blood, processes that require continuous, active filtration even while you are completely unaware of them. They manage blood pressure, which follows its own nighttime rhythm and depends on healthy kidney function to stay within safe ranges through the hours of sleep. In a younger person with fully functioning kidneys, this nighttime work happens with ease. But after 60, as we've discussed before, kidney capacity quietly diminishes. The organs filter more slowly. They respond to disruption less nimbly. And when something arrives in the bloodstream in the evening, a substance that the kidneys must process, neutralize, or excrete, the overnight hours become the time when that burden lands most heavily. Because the kidneys are already in the middle of managing everything else sleep requires of them, and now they must also deal with whatever was consumed in the hours before bed. This is why the timing matters so much. A drink that might create a modest burden earlier in the day, when the kidneys are supported by full circulation, peak hormone levels, and the body's daytime metabolic resources, can create a meaningfully greater burden when consumed in the evening. The kidneys are not at peak efficiency. Body's ability to compensate is reduced, and the damage that accumulates does so in the quiet hours when nothing feels wrong at all. Let's begin with the first drink. And I want to approach this one with real care because it is deeply woven into the social fabric of life for many older adults, and I have no desire to dismiss the role it plays. I'm talking about alcohol, specifically the pattern of regular evening alcohol consumption that is extraordinarily common among people over 60 and almost entirely normalized by the culture around them. A glass of wine with dinner, a beer in the evening, a small measure of something stronger before bed. For many people, this is not occasional indulgence. It is a nightly ritual that has been part of their lives for decades, and one that they have come to associate with relaxation, social connection, and the comfortable rhythm of the evening. I understand that. I respect that. And I also need to tell you what alcohol does inside an aging kidney on the nights when it arrives. Alcohol is a diuretic. This is one of its most well-known properties. It increases urine production by suppressing a hormone called vasopressin, which is the body's primary signal for water retention. In practical terms, this means that alcohol consumed in the evening prompts the kidneys to release more water than they otherwise would during the night. For an older adult whose kidneys are already less efficient at managing fluid balance, this creates a condition of nighttime dehydration that the body struggles to correct while asleep. Blood volume drops slightly, the blood becomes more concentrated, and the kidneys, working hard to filter and regulate through the night, are doing so with less fluid moving through the system than they need. Chronic mild dehydration is one of the most underappreciated contributors to kidney damage in older adults. When the blood is consistently more concentrated than it should be overnight, the kidneys are exposed to higher concentrations of waste products, mineral salts, and other compounds that would ordinarily be diluted in adequate fluid. Over months and years of nightly alcohol consumption, this creates the conditions in which kidney stones form, in which the filtration membranes of the nephrons experience accelerated wear, and in which blood pressure through the night runs higher than it should. And there is more. Alcohol is metabolized by the liver into compounds that must ultimately be cleared by the kidneys. Acetaldehyde, the intermediate metabolite of alcohol, is toxic to kidney tissue in ways that are dose-dependent and cumulative. The kidneys of a 60 or 70-year-old are managing this detoxification task with fewer functional nephrons than they had at 40, meaning each remaining nephron carries a proportionally heavier share of the burden. Research has consistently shown that regular alcohol consumption, even at moderate levels, is associated with a measurably higher risk of chronic kidney disease in older adults compared to those who drink rarely or not at all. I am not telling you to never have a glass of wine again. I am telling you that the evening, specifically, is the worst time for your kidneys to receive alcohol. If you choose to drink, doing so earlier in the day and allowing several hours between your last drink and bedtime gives the kidneys the best possible chance to process and clear the alcohol before they enter their overnight regulatory work. And reducing frequency, even by a few nights a week, allows the kidneys something they desperately need and rarely receive from habitual drinkers: recovery time. The second drink is one that will genuinely surprise many people, because it carries an image of health and vitality that has been carefully cultivated for decades, and because older adults in particular have been encouraged to consume it generously as a cornerstone of a heart-healthy lifestyle. I'm talking about certain fruit juices, specifically the dark, concentrated varieties that are marketed most aggressively for their antioxidant content. Pomegranate juice, tart cherry juice, grape juice, prune juice. These products are positioned as superfoods in liquid form, and many of the health claims made about them have genuine scientific support. But what is almost never mentioned in any of the enthusiastic marketing surrounding these products is what they contain in addition to antioxidants, and what that additional content does to aging kidneys during the night. The first concern is potassium. Dark fruit juices are among the most potassium-dense beverages a person can consume. A single cup of pomegranate juice delivers well over 500 milligrams of potassium. Prune juice carries even more. For younger adults with fully functioning kidneys, this potassium is processed and excreted without difficulty. But aging kidneys filter potassium more slowly, and the nighttime, when kidney function is operating in its overnight mode and urine output is deliberately reduced, is the period when potassium clearance is least efficient. When potassium accumulates in the blood above safe levels, a condition called hyperkalemia develops. And hyperkalemia is not a condition that gives much warning. It affects the electrical activity of the heart muscle, causing rhythm disturbances that can range from subtle palpitations to genuinely dangerous arrhythmias. Muscle weakness follows. In severe cases, the consequences can escalate rapidly. For an older adult with even moderately reduced kidney function, the kind of reduction that may not yet show clearly on standard blood tests, drinking a large glass of concentrated fruit juice in the evening is asking the kidneys to manage a potassium load during the very hours when they are least equipped to do so efficiently. The second concern with these juices is their sugar content. Even natural fruit sugars, consumed in the concentrated liquid form that juice provides, create a blood sugar response that is far more dramatic than the equivalent amount of sugar in whole fruit. This happens because juice lacks the fiber of whole fruit, which ordinarily slows sugar absorption. When blood sugar rises sharply in the evening, the kidneys respond by excreting some of that glucose in the urine, a process that creates additional osmotic pressure and draws more water out of the body, contributing again to the nighttime dehydration we discussed in relation to alcohol. Over time, regular evening consumption of high-sugar, high-potassium juices creates a pattern of nighttime metabolic stress that accumulates in kidney tissue at precisely the hours when the kidneys have no buffer against it. If you enjoy these juices, consider consuming them in the morning or early afternoon in smaller portions and ideally diluted with water to reduce both the potassium concentration and the sugar load. Or, better yet, eat the whole fruit. Your kidneys will manage it far more gracefully. The third drink is perhaps the most counterintuitive of all, because it is something that people reach for in the evening with the specific intention of doing something good for themselves. Certain herbal teas, and I want to be very precise here, because not all herbal teas are problematic, and some are genuinely supportive of kidney health. But a specific subset of herbal teas that are widely consumed by older adults for their purported health benefits have been shown to carry compounds that, consumed regularly in the evening over months and years, can cause serious and sometimes irreversible kidney damage. The teas of primary concern include those containing starfruit, which contains oxalic acid in concentrations high enough to cause acute kidney injury in susceptible individuals. Teas made from or containing licorice root, consumed regularly, can raise blood pressure and disrupt potassium balance in ways that stress aging kidneys significantly. Certain traditional herbal blends, particularly those sourced from international markets and not subject to rigorous quality testing, have been found to contain aristolochic acid, a naturally occurring plant compound that is directly nephrotoxic, meaning it destroys kidney tissue, and is associated with a specific form of progressive kidney disease called aristolochic acid nephropathy. This is not a theoretical risk. It is documented in medical literature with heartbreaking clarity, in patients who consumed herbal teas faithfully, believing they were supporting their health. But even beyond these more severe examples, there is a broader and more common concern with herbal teas consumed regularly in the evening. Many popular herbal blends, marketed for sleep, relaxation, detoxification, or immune support, contain compounds that interact with kidney function in ways that the consumer is never informed about. Dandelion teas, while generally mild, are potent diuretics that can disrupt overnight fluid balance in older adults whose kidneys are already managing hydration regulation carefully through the night. Teas containing high concentrations of oxalate-rich plants contribute to the same oxalate burden we discussed in relation to high-dose vitamin C, creating conditions favorable to kidney stone formation during the overnight period of reduced urine flow. The challenge with herbal teas is that they occupy a space in the public mind that is almost entirely free of suspicion. They are natural, they are gentle, they are traditional, and for the vast majority of people consuming them occasionally and in modest amounts, they are not a meaningful risk. But for an older adult who drinks 2 or 3 cups of a specific herbal blend every evening, year after year, the cumulative effect of whatever compounds that tea contains on already aging kidneys is real and worth taking seriously. If you drink herbal tea regularly in the evenings, it is worth a conversation with your doctor about specifically what is in your tea and whether it is appropriate for your kidney health. I want to close with something I feel strongly about saying, because I know that for many of you, the things we've talked about today are woven into some of your most comforting and personally meaningful daily rituals. A glass of wine with dinner, a mug of herbal tea before bed, a healthy juice that you chose carefully because you wanted to do something good for yourself. These are not signs of carelessness. They are signs of someone trying to live well. And the information I've shared today is not an indictment of that intention. It is simply the fuller picture, the one that includes what your kidneys experience during the hours when you cannot feel them working. Your kidneys filter your blood more than 300 times every single day of your life. They do it without complaint, without rest, and without any indication of how hard they are working until, one day, the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. The most powerful thing you can do for them is pay attention now, while the changes you make are still gentle and preventive, rather than urgent and reactive. Look at your evenings, consider what you're drinking in the hours before sleep, and ask honestly whether those drinks are supporting the work your kidneys need to do through the night, or adding to a burden that has been quietly growing for longer than you know. Talk to your doctor. Ask for a kidney function check if you haven't had one recently. And know that the small, consistent choices you make in the ordinary moments of your day, including the quiet moment when you reach for something to drink before bed, are exactly where your kidney health is being written, one evening at a time. You deserve to know this, and now you do.